I was traveling in Europe recently and was kind of shocked by the questions being posed me about how I felt about being in a dictatorship in America, because they're scared. Anyway, we're going to go into that and more and what created the dynamic we're in right now. Hi, everybody. I just came back from an absolutely magnificent trip where I had a chance to stay in Tuscany, in the Etruscan region, in a castle that was quite ancient. They believe up to 1,500 years old. Knight Templars lived there and stayed there and got protection there at one point in time, and has a lot of literary figures, and just an amazing experience. And what was so interesting to me was I had a chance to speak with people from other parts of the world, including the owner of the castle, who is from England, and some of the volunteers, young volunteers that worked with her from Poland, Lithuania, also England. And it was quite fascinating, their perceptions. But before I get to that, I just want to say it was so wonderful to be where there was no interfering frequencies. They did have Wi-Fi inside if you could access it, but nobody was on screens. I was with a group, there were 16 of us, and it was just like living as people did, whoever had access to living in a castle and wasn't out turning the fields, that should be noted, for hundreds of years, where the rhythm came and went with, meals and everybody dining together, going off and learning things, doing chores, taking a nap, but quiet, people connected, beautiful food, organic wine. It was amazing. So anyway, I just have to say, what a refreshment for my soul. But as I was traveling through also England and Germany during this trip, I was confronted with quite a few people saying, how do you feel about living under a dictatorship? And I realized, okay, that is the prevailing perception of what's going on in the world in the eyes of other countries about the United States. And I think it doesn't matter where you are politically at this point in time. We can't even afford to be politically correct anymore. The fact is, we've obviously lost quite a few rights and freedoms here. And so I started meditating on that a couple days ago. How did we get here? How did this happen? Because the problem was within these people's minds, if the United States could go this direction where we have troops on the street and masked people snagging people from the streets, that it could happen to them again. They've already been through it and know the horrors of it. And so what happens to the U.S. is of great concern to other countries, because whether they like us or not, they do believe we hold quite a bit of power, and we also hold a template for what comes in the future. So this is quite frightening to them. Getting back to the meditation on it, I thought was kind of interesting. What was said as I was listening, and I was doing auto writing at the time, that's when I just get my computer, close my eyes, put my mind aside, wait until my fingers rise up to the keyboard and let it fly. And what was coming out was that we're in this time of incredibly high frequencies moving through. We've talked about this many times. This is not new. The book, The Future Human, the Z's talk about it. Everybody talks about it. That's where we are. We have these incredible frequencies sweeping through, moving through everything on a vibrational level, on a cellular level, throughout the cosmos. We're not the only ones affected by it. And this higher frequency is an invitation to evolve. And you can go to almost any site. People are going to talk about ascension and evolution. That is what's being called for, is our human and other species, but our human evolution. And what happens when we're faced with rapid change and a revolution in our thinking and being, which accompanies evolution, is our beings start holding back and going into fear patterns. We know this. So what they were saying was, my guides, was that the way we ended up in the situation, and it's not unpredicted, is that when you're being given such incredibly bold new energy to start drawing from and creating from, what it requires is that we collectively, as well as individually, must deal with the shadow. This isn't new information. Many of you do shadow work. And that if we don't do the shadow work, not just individually, but collectively, as a culture or as a species, you have to get rid of the stuff that's not working before you can really fly into our new collective creation. So, I mean, I think the thing to put in at this point, insert here, is that we are going to a better place, a higher place in our personal human evolution. And I've said this before, but we are already at the kindest place, as ugly as things look in the streets right now. As a species, we're at the kindest place we've been, certainly over the last 20, 30,000 years. We're at a place where we are no longer just systematically beating children if they disobey, beating our wives, men's wives if they disobey. That was only 50, 60, 100 years ago. That was common. It still happens, but by and large, it's not something that happens en masse anymore in the countries, certainly in the countries that have become a little bit more educated and a little bit more refined. It's not common anymore in the way that it was. And so we have to give ourselves credit for already having evolved to where, as I've joked about, and it's not funny at all, where people used to go on a Saturday morning to a lynching for entertainment, for town entertainment. I mean, it's disgusting where we've been in the past. We're not there anymore. So we're already in a kinder place than we've ever been. Some would say, too considerate, too woke, trying to take too many people's needs into consideration. That's what some would say. The point is that it's even happening shows that we have evolved. So now we're being asked to go to the next level, which is much more truthful. Self-awareness is really what this lynch is around, is our being fully honest with ourselves about what we're doing and who we are and how we're presenting ourselves in the world. And this can be something as simple as, say you had a conversation with someone recently and afterward you feel a little dirty. You think, that was kind of a manipulative thing I said, or passive aggressive. When you're really looking to evolve, this kind of radical self-honesty has to be present. Once you recognize this in yourself, you can say, that's not good enough. That was a low vibe thing to do. I'm looking to raise my frequencies, and maybe go and issue an apology to that person. Just say, what? I know that what I said the other day wasn't my best, and I want to apologize to you for that. That is the beginning of the evolution we're going into, where we don't accept these unconscious, subconscious behaviors that we're putting out into the world anymore. And we don't really need to accept it in others. If other people are treating us in a disrespectful way, maybe the way I was just discussing a moment ago, we can say, that didn't make me feel good. I feel like you're manipulating me a bit. And you can be loving, you can be kind and say, that doesn't work for me. And call people out appropriately. It doesn't mean turn your back on them. It doesn't mean divorce your family, condemn and vilify people. It simply means you just call the thing out that's hurtful to you and not working. This gives another person a chance to reflect on themselves and see where the truth is in it for them. These tiny little steps are what is being asked of us at this time with this new energy coming in, because we are responsible for creating this new world awaiting us. And it's going to be quite lovely. I remember many years ago asking my soul group, what is the next evolution like? Because people were talking about ascension, we're becoming 5-dimensional beings. And I thought, well, then how's that work? That's not even in the physical realm. And they said, no, that's not what's happening. You can reach into many dimensions of consciousness, not a problem. Many of you can reach into 5th, 6th, 8th dimensional consciousness. But if you continue incarnating in a physical body here on Earth, then you're bound by some of the whatever energy is prevailing there and, doing your best with it. I said, well, what's that look like as we evolve in our next iteration? And they said, it's very much like you are now. Only the people are more like-minded. There's less strife and argument and friction. You're actually starting to cooperate and create things together more. And that was really, I thought, okay, that's an advancement from where we are right now. Certainly where we are right now, everybody pointing fingers at each other and yelling and, metaphorically and literally. So that really is more what we're looking at, is these small leaps forward. When people are looking for externals like a comet to come by and shift their consciousness and say, oh, our DNA is going to change and we're suddenly going to be fifth dimensional. No, that's not how I see it. And that's certainly not how my group of beings see it. They see that we're going to simply improve. We're going to be more kind, more gentle, more collaborative, more creative. We're going to become more cohesive, more coherent, more beautiful. But that doesn't happen without facing the shadow. So, as I was listening to these people, as they were asking me, how did this happen? And I was kind of at a loss for words initially. I said, well, I think a lot of people were blindsided. They don't really know how to respond to an assault on freedoms in the way that we've never seen before. And so then that's what prompted me coming home and meditating on it and saying, what really happened here? So what was told was that human beings, when it comes to these times where change is required, a large percentage of human beings would rather reach back to the familiar and the old for comfort and security, no matter how uncomfortable or ugly it is, than to allow themselves to be taken into the unknown. And what we're facing right now is a massive collective unknown. Now, if you listen to my guides, they say it's not really unknown. You're just becoming a better version of yourselves. If you listen to the future human information that the Z's brought us, yes, you're just becoming a better version of yourself. Societies are going to bring their own collective creativity back to the table and recreate these systems that are failing us. That's what it's ahead of us. But the energy feels like, to some people, this new uplifting energy, this powerful new energy is coming in. And for some people, it feels like wind under their wings. Like, oh my God, I can do things I never thought of doing. For others, it feels like it's a strong gale force wind that's pushing them over, and they don't like that. It's uncomfortable, right? And so they're going to cling to the past and choose old ways of being and, authoritative features within humanity just because it's something they know already. Well, no. What we have to do now is be courageous enough, individually and collectively, to say we don't really know how we're going to get there and how we're going to forge this new future, but we're not afraid of unknowns. We're okay if there isn't a pat answer to this right now. And all that means is you start, as we talked about before, going in and listening to the heart, which is unfiltered, unprogrammed. Algorithms don't touch the heart. Instead of all these stupid programs, just go into the heart and see what your truth is. Start knowing thyself and acknowledging where your shadow side's coming up. And all of us are having to deal with it. And then addressing it one simple task at a time. And it might be that the new energy is simply asking you to take a little bit of a new direction in a career that you're already in, for example. So maybe if you, someone comes up into your view that you normally wouldn't speak to and say, no, I don't really have anything, I don't need that person in my life. Maybe if they're trying to get your attention, you listen to them, you find out there's an offer of some kind that's actually going to get you to the next level and what your career path is. Maybe just be open to hearing other people, someone that you wouldn't normally give the time of day to. It might be that simple, where your shift is just to move into a higher version of what you're already doing. For other people, it's to walk away from the whole thing, just, let yourself have faith in life with a big L and see what turns up next if you're in a position to do that. A lot of people are doing that, actually. So it doesn't matter how it's showing up in your life. It's asking you to have faith that the unknown doesn't mean it's going to be something ultimately scary or detrimental. It means you just don't know the outcome yet. Because the truth is, your soul, if you're listening at all to your higher self, your soul group, your guides, life, the creators, all have your back. Everything has your back to go to a higher, better, more sustainable, more coherent and functional place at the end of this big shift that we're going through. Everything has your back. So whether it can appear to be chaotic in the moment doesn't matter. Whether it appears to be just a little step forward doesn't matter. Just to have the courage to be willing to open our minds to a step that we hadn't already anticipated, which is called engaging with the unknown, is the most important thing. So I thought it was worth sharing with you because I hadn't really gone that far in my own thought process to realize that, yes, of course, this is just humanity freaking out when something new comes and invites us into it. Some people freak out and say, no, and jump back into the old pool, even if it's an abusive relationship or whatever, where other people say, hell yes, I'm ready. I want to jump. And we're all somewhere on that spectrum. Ultimately, where most of us are going to take the leap forward. So why not do it now? And so part of that is what I've already discussed in other commentaries, which is just take a little time to sit with yourself, feel the truth in yourself, listen to the heart, take situations that are challenging, drop them down into the heart, take a couple of breaths and say, so where are we on that? Now, your ego may not like the response because your head has all kinds of ideas. It's been exposed to all kinds of manipulation and algorithms. It was so nice not being exposed to any of that just for one glorious week in Tuscany, I have to tell you. Anyway, so that is what's required of us now. Radical self-honesty, taking a couple breaths, letting the heart speak, and constantly asking the higher self to speak clearly through to you so you can hear its voice, because it knows what you're here for. It knows your direction. It knows where you're going ultimately. So, not to take your free will away, you still have to employ it. Life has your back. What I'm trying to say is life with a capital L. All the constituents of it has your back. So feel free to take a leap of faith wherever it's being offered you at this time. It's really important. That is how we're going to take back our societies, how we're going to take back our relationships and transform them into something much more beautiful and functional, which is where we're headed. So why not get a jump on it? If you like this content, please feel free to help by donating to Patreon for as little as $5 a month. Helps keep the lights on, the pieces edited, social media rolling, etc. for my wonderful little crew. In addition, you can sign up for my newsletter. That'll give you access to a download of this amazing human origin story that you've likely never heard before. I think you're going to love it. Thank you.